fellow co-hosts, Dr. Dominic D'Agostino and Dr. Angela Poff. We are so excited to be back in action live on our channels right now because it has been it's been a crazy whirlwind in so many ways. Planning of MHS is in full effect. Dom and I are just getting over COVID infections. Yay! It feels like it's everywhere at the moment. So, I definitely want to ask you, Dom, about your experience. It's been a crazy holiday season, but we're excited to be back in action. Before we dive into some really interesting topics around metabolic health and ketosis, I just want to say welcome back, guys. It's so nice to see your faces. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everyone watching.
Happy New Year. We're having 2022. Oh my gosh. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe it. I can't believe we're already in 2022.
I can't either. It's been 2 years since MHS. Sorry, go ahead, Dom. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say it's great to see you both. Better in person, but through virtual platform, it's great. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and for those of you jumping in right now, I just want to mention real quick, we're doing a giveaway of a ticket to Metabolic Health Summit 2022, which is worth over $400. You don't want to miss this giveaway. And the way you can enter is just engage with us, comment, and share this live video. And that's it. And then Monday, we're going to be picking a winner who can come join us in person in Santa Barbara, or if you can't attend, we're also happy to give you a virtual ticket that's just going to be just as incredible to MHS. So comment, share, ask questions, because we're going to be going through some really interesting questions around metabolic health-based research and research on the ketogenic diet and all kinds of stuff. But Dom, you recently recovered from COVID. So did I. It's been a crazy, This is my second infection. Yay. And also suffered some long COVID along the way. But tell me about, how are you doing over there in Florida with... How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I hadn't been sick really for 10 or 15 years, I think. I've had like a little stomach bug and sniffles here and there, maybe over the last 10 years, but this thing really humbled me in the beginning. About a week ago, I just sniffles, very mild symptoms for like 2 days. And then I had 2 days of a very, very sore throat and fever that ran for 24 hours, I think, approaching about 104. My glands swelled up. Presumably I made antibodies, and then about a day after that, I was feeling okay. Now, I just have a tickle in my throat. I'm not 100%, but I'm probably 95%. And I worked out yesterday and feel fine, during the workout and stuff, and outside, sunshine, fresh air. But I continued working through the whole process, but it was not fun. It was really hit me. So, but it's good. I'm very grateful that it wasn't worse. And I'm very grateful it didn't happen during our vacation time. So we were traveling and seeing family and friends, which probably gave me COVID, all the gatherings and everything. But I'm glad I didn't get sick during that process. But so I think I've shaken the worst of it so far, hopefully.
Oh, I can't hear you, Victoria.
Oh. Victoria, I think you're muted.
Unplug my headphones altogether. Can you guys hear me okay?
Now we can.
Now I can.
Perfect. I'm having all kinds of audio issues over here. Okay, well, Dom, I'm so glad you've recovered. I rang in the new year with COVID. It was quite on brand, though, I have to say, for 2020 and 2021. Ringing in the new year for 2022 with COVID is how the last couple of years have sort of been rolling. So you got to roll with it. And it's been a wild ride. And thankfully, my second infection wasn't as bad as the first. So I'm very thankful for that. And very thankful and excited to have 2022 ahead of us. So excited for Metabolic Health Summit. We have so much to talk about today, just in terms of new speakers that we haven't yet announced on our website. We're also going to get into some really great questions around the ketogenic diet, metabolic-based therapy. So if you have them, go ahead and add them into the mix, because we want to answer those questions here live. And for those of you just jumping on, we're also doing a ticket giveaway here. So comment, share, and you'll be entered to win a ticket to MHS 2022. But let's go ahead and dive into some of the speakers including one that we haven't even put up on our website yet. Really exciting. Angela, do you want to break the news, the new speaker that we've got?
Yeah, I'm really excited to say that I just heard back from Dr. Sachin Panda today. He's at the Salk Institute. Sorry, I have a really bad reverb in my headphones, so I'm hearing myself repeat myself over and over.
no.
So if I sound weird, I can't think, this is why.
No problem.
Dr. Panda is an incredible scientist. He studies the many things that influence circadian rhythm, which is our biological clock. So he actually discovered how light sensors in the eye communicate with the brain to control these cellular timekeepers throughout the body. And he studies how we can alter eating behavior with time-restricted feeding to work with our biological clocks and help prevent and manage chronic diseases like obesity and diabetes and promote healthy aging and extend longevity. So I'm super excited to have Dr. Panda joining us at MHS. I think that he's going to bring a really unique perspective and a lot of expertise to an area that's a really hot area of research that we probably all need to think a little bit more about. I am kind of acutely aware of this whole situation. My husband is an ER doctor and he's constantly switching back between days and nights, and his schedule is absolutely insane. So I'm always very anxious to see the new research on how important our circadian rhythm is. And it's just something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So I'm super excited that Dr. Panda is going to be joining us at MHS.
Yeah, when you told me the news there, and hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I know there's been some people saying that we have a little bit of an echo going on. Hopefully that's good now. It could be my audio. My computer just is deciding not to work today. So yay. But when you told me, we're just thrilled about having Panda out to our event. And I think that he's just adds to an already awesome lineup. Speaking of awesome lineup, we also have another incredible physician coming out. Dom, do you want to tell everybody who else we just have on board that we just announced on our website?
Yeah, Dr. Robert Lust. Oh, I'm hearing the reverb back, but my voice.
Can you can you hear? Is there an echo for you, Dom?
There's an echo for me. Is there an echo for you?
There's no echo for me, but I'm going to mute myself and see if that works better.
Okay. Yeah, that might be better. Okay. Testing. Okay, that seems to be working. So yeah, Dr. Robert Lustig, he has a book out, Metabolical, which I read on the way to a conference where I had the great opportunity to meet him, Collaboration Cures Conference, another conference, and we got to chat quite a bit. And his book really highlights a number of important things I know that he'll probably talk about at the conference, including this idea that chronic diseases are not druggable, right? So there's no drug really to manage chronic diseases, but they are foodable, meaning that, we can change our diet to manage a wide variety of chronic diseases. And his book was probably the most compelling argument to suggest that food is really addictive in nature, which means that it meets many criteria that the medical establishment has defined that would fit within the definition of addiction. And he nicely walks through that, along with a lot of the politics associated with the food system that we have in place within the United States. So I found it very enlightening. There are some things that I did know, but quite a few things that I learned, reading his book. And I think he'll probably highlight many of those things in the conference. I'm very excited to hear his talk. He delivered a bunch of talks at the conference that I was at, and everyone was very, very good. So really excited to have him. He's a great guy and is going to really provide some amazing information for our attendees.
Absolutely. Really going to add a wealth of knowledge to the lineup for sure. And it will be in our Metabolic Health Symposium. And thanks, Dom, for kind of giving us a little bit of backstory. We also have a book signing going on at Metabolic Health Summit. So Some of our speakers, including those who are thought leaders in the space beyond our speaker list, will be there signing some really great books that they have out, which is a really unique opportunity to be able to mix and mingle with some of our speakers and some really progressive people in the space. So in addition to that, we also have another speaker that I want to mention, LJ Armoral, and she actually is a clinical research dietitian who specializes in oncology, specifically at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. We're thrilled to have her because she's really researching and diving into using dietary therapy as an adjunct to standard of care treatment in glioblastoma and a variety of other brain tumors and other cancer types as well. So she's going to offer a wealth of knowledge when it comes to implementation around metabolic-based therapies. Her and I had an opportunity to work back together years ago when I was alongside the Epigenics Foundation, and Cedars was really kind of starting, and actually Dr. Jethro Hu, who's also going to be speaking at MHS, really started to dive into research around potentially using keto as an option alongside standard of care. And so she's continued that work and is doing incredible things at Cedars-Sinai with patients, and we'll be sharing that information, but also discussing looking at implementation specifically too when it comes to cancer-based therapy as well. So in addition to that, we also have another incredible guest who will be joining her on a panel. Angela, do you want to talk a little bit more about that guest? And I'll mute myself because I think I'm having audio issues.
No problem. Yeah, no, we're very excited. Miriam Kalamian is going to be joining LJ in the implementation panel that she's going to be leading. To help provide, just additional insight and perspective on this really important field. So Miriam is a longtime friend of the lab and of MHS, and she is an incredible nutritionist. And she has just a wonderful background of experience and knowledge related to implementing ketogenic metabolic therapies in patients, and in particular in cancer patients. And she always has some really incredible insight to share related to that. So we thought it would be really cool to have her join LJ. These two women know a lot about how this field works and can really share a lot of information for anyone who's maybe starting to use this in their own practice or just interested in how it works in a practical setting. LJ and Miriam's a special interest forum is going to be incredible. So I'm just really excited to have them both there together.
Absolutely. We're really lucky to have such great people coming out. And for those of you who are watching who want to learn more about all of our speakers and the full list, almost the full list, I should say, there may be some more surprises coming out here very soon. But just go to our website, metabolichealthsummit.com, and you can find a whole list of speakers. You can find all of the brands that are going to be on site at Metabolic Health Summit 2022, and all of the things that are going to be happening. It's a really action-packed experience that you really won't want to miss. And I cannot wait until we all get back together again in Santa Barbara. And if you can't join us because maybe you're in another country or whatever the case may be, we also have virtual tickets this year, which is not something that we've offered in the past. Something that's really special because you'll have access to videos after the conference as well, which really, at least for a couple of weeks, which is really great. So, but I want to dive into some questions. And also for those who are just joining the live, know that you can be entered to win a ticket to Metabolic Health Summit 2022 by commenting and sharing this video. We're going to announce the winner on Monday, upcoming here. So definitely enter for that. And I want to mention, though, we've got some questions that I want to toss out at you guys about metabolic health, the ketogenic diet, and some new research that's come about. We first want to dive into some questions that we got actually out on Twitter. If you're not following us there, definitely follow along, and we'd love to interact with you. But let's dive in. So, Dom, how about you take this one? Are rising glucose levels on a very low-carb diet, glucose sparing from gluconeogenesis, a concern? So go ahead and take that and run with it however you see fit.
Yeah, I think probably talking about the observation in some people that when they start a very low carbohydrate diet or ketogenic diet, there may be a rise in fasting glucose levels or even throughout the day. There's a phenomenon effect. So sometimes when people wake up, they have a rise in their glucose levels. what is often measured in people is fasting glucose, or we know that insulin goes down. Without the hormone insulin, we're not disposing of as much glucose. So glucose may be, in circulation. Exercise, which is independent of insulin, can help dispose of that, but glucagon go up. And glucagon can increase gluconeogenesis, and athletes in particular have a greater elevation of glucagon relative to more people. So some people may experience a rise in fasting glucose, but if you were to wear a continuous glucose monitor and actually kind of look at the area under the curve and the average glucose would probably be the same or may go down. If your calories are decreased, if you're in a calorie deficit, glucose would probably go down. If you're at surplus, glucose would probably come up independent of carbohydrate consumption. So it varies, but I think the important thing is that a small element of glucose, fasting glucose, is not a big concern, because pretty much other variables, it's just a compensatory mechanism, and it's not a pathological rise.
Yeah, it's a really interesting phenomenon, and I think some people call it physiological insulin resistance. There's a few different kind of ways to describe it, and I kind of think about it as this. You have to look at the full picture. So fasting may be rising a little bit, but when fasting glucose rises in someone with prediabetes or diabetes, that is in the context of an A1C that is almost certainly too high, chronically elevated glucose throughout the day, and large swings in glucose postprandial. And when you look at A1C of someone on a low carbohydrate diet, it's not higher, right? And so I kind of think of it like we do a lot of metabolic markers related to these changes in diets. You have to kind of look at the big picture. What's happening in the body makes complete sense. The body is primed to be, it's not necessarily expecting significant carbohydrate intake from an exogenous source. So the liver's like, okay, it's morning, it's my time to shine. I'm going to start pumping out some glucose to start the day. And, people find they wake up and they're not starving because their liver is going ahead and getting that started. So it's definitely fascinating. There's not really a lot of research on it, but it's something that we see that's consistent. And just from my perspective, I think, it's most important to look at the collective biomarkers that are changing. And usually, the things that are moving alongside it are not something that's concerning. So.
Yeah, that's a great points that you guys made on that, and super interesting question. And thank you for the person that shot that out at us on Twitter. Along those sort of lines, that they also asked in terms of electrolytes, and I'm assuming that this is just as you maybe transition to higher carb consumption, but this person was asking about electrolytes specifically. Initially asked about a brand that we might recommend, and of course we have Elemental Labs at MHS that offers some great stuff out there, so definitely worth taking a look at. But they have a question about electrolytes and the need for electrolytes with higher carb consumption and water sodium retention. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of maybe, I guess, making that shift from a ketogenic diet to higher carb, eating more carbohydrates, and that kind of shift in water sodium that might happen?
Yeah, we know low carb diets lower insulin, and when our insulin level is suppressed, that will suppress the hormone, that'll reduce the intake of sodium. So insulin suppression has a mild diuretic effect and a natriuretic effect, which means we're mildly depleted of minerals, in particular sodium, when we, especially the first 2 weeks of the ketogenic diet or low carb diet. So adding additional sodium in, Element has a great product. I use it. There's about 1,000 milligrams of sodium, maybe like 150, 200 milligrams of potassium, magnesium, maybe some calcium. So Element is great. Ketone salts. The ketone salt product that I use has the same balance of electrolytes, but it's bound with beta hydroxybutyrate. these can help to mitigate some of the electrolyte changes that happen in response to the ketogenic diet, and they can be very beneficial. So I'm a big advocate of electrolytes, and find that people are lethargic or have sort of brain fog when they initiate a ketogenic diet, or if they're fasting, electrolytes can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of making that shift and not getting a massive headache going onto the ketogenic diet. I know I made that mistake when I initially tried it years ago. And was like, I don't need supplements. Well, yeah, I definitely need supplements these days to help with that shift. We're actually getting some really interesting questions coming in here. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys have access and can kind of take a look at the chat there coming in, but I can ask a couple of those questions in just a second. Tammy and Ravi, thank you guys for asking some really fascinating stuff. So, but I want to talk a little bit about a paper that more recently came out around natural competitive bodybuilders. This is something that in a previous life, I was involved in the fitness world. And Dom, I know you are a big fan of bodybuilding in your own life. And so I thought this would be interesting to talk about. We actually just posted it on social media today. So if you've not checked out our social at Metabolic Health Summit, definitely do that, because we highlight a variety of research going on. But this is kind of a hot topic. These researchers took natural bodybuilders, a group that they put on a ketogenic diet for 2 months, and a group that was also on sort of your standard Western diet. And they measured some interesting parameters. Dom, you want to talk a little bit about what they found? Can you hear Dom's audio? Can everybody hear Dom's audio?
I think you're muted, Dom.
Sorry about that. And it was like a newbie mistake. So, so this article or this study was done by Antonio Paoli, who we know well. I had connected with him 10 years ago, and I was an author on a similar type of study where it was elite gymnasts, and the general findings are very similar here. So you have, in this particular study, they go into much more detail and looked at things like cytokine BDNF, which went up, inflammatory markers went down, BDNF went up, which was really interesting. Strength overall was kind of maintained. So the participants following a ketogenic diet did not gain muscle like the standard diet did, but they retained muscle and lost more fat. So they retained their strength and their muscle. They didn't lose muscle, but it seemed to have a greater overall body composition alterations in regards to fat loss, some additional benefits in regards to knocking down inflammatory markers, and increasing BDNF, which could be, beneficial from a perspective. And so it's a very interesting study, and I haven't dug too far into it. I'm just looking at like the general figures here, but it echoes sort of like the findings from the elite almost 10 years ago, looking at this idea that you can follow a very low carb diet, maintain strength performance, and decrease fat mass at the same time and maintain your strength. So that's like really important for many people trying to make weight. Decreasing your overall power to weight ratio is really important for many different types of sports, and the ketogenic diet seems to maybe have an edge on that. Whereas in the bodybuilding and adding size and overall muscle mass as fast as possible, the ketogenic diet is not going to be your best option for adding muscle as fast as possible. But when it comes to fat, or you're in a cutting phase, then the ketogenic diet appears to be advantageous.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can maintain muscle and get shredded at the same time, that's like a bodybuilder's dream, right? So it's really interesting, though, in terms of, because I think that's like one of the sort of heated debates of ketogenic diet. And I think what we have to do is continue to follow where the research goes with that. And so hopefully we'll continue to see more research come out of that in the athletic performance sort of realm as well. So let's take a look here at one quick question that came in terms of your opinion around taking metformin for longevity. And obviously this is like this is a great question. Thank you, Tammy. It's certainly not on our list. So whoever wants to maybe like reference to that, because I know metformin is thrown around a lot. And obviously we want to take a look at what evidence, what things we know so far in terms of the science on that front.
Yeah, my general opinion is that if you're normal and healthy and you're like in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, I would not be a fan of taking metformin all the time. If you're going to take it, I think it could be helpful for those people who have diabetes in their family or they're pre-diabetic. And even if they don't have overt diabetes and they want to take metformin, it may be good to take, perhaps a low dose, 5,000 milligrams at nighttime before bed. There's some, evidence to indicate that if you take it before training, it can have can have a negative on training. It can increase your lactate. And in many ways, it's a mitochondrial poison, if you will, in that it affects the complex 1 of the cytochrome electron transport chain. And in this way, it can impair ATP production, and it's sort of the anti-cancer may be linked mechanistically to that type 1 or complex 1 inhibition. And it probably has negative consequences on exercise performance because of that too. Although it has some interesting effects at increasing insulin sensitivity and perhaps lowering blood glucose in response to a meal. So they could be beneficial effects. But in regards to longevity, I think if one is to consider it, I think it would be best if they had like diabetes in the pre-diabetes, and they had some pre-existing conditions that would warrant the use of such a drug. But it's pretty low side effects, and I don't think the data is supportive at this point in time that it's going to really help increase longevity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. No, for sure. And
unless you have diabetes. But one thing I'd like to add, though, in those that do have type 2 diabetes that did take metformin, there was a significant decrease in pancreatic cancer. And I think in a large cohort of subjects that took metformin for a prolonged period of time, retrospectively, they looked back at that and saw that there was a pretty significant decrease in the incidence of pancreatic cancer. So that was pretty interesting, and maybe a few other cancers. I don't know if you remember, Angela, but I remember pancreatic cancer being one of them.
Yeah, I know pancreatic cancer, but I do think there are a few others that were associated with that reduced risk as well.
Yeah, I don't know, Dom, if Angela looks a little frozen to you. I'm having all kinds of fun tech issues on my end, so it's probably my computer. But
I heard you, Angela.
Okay.
Oh, good. It's really, really interesting, this conversation around metformin specifically. And I think, obviously, at the end of the day, too, it's important for anybody considering or looking into this thing to chat with their doctor about it. Because we, over here at Metabolic Health Summit can share the science, but you certainly need to discuss that with whatever professional you're working with before embarking down that route. So just want to throw that out there. But that was a really great question for sure. And I want to talk about another paper that I think that came out in 2020, talking about the therapeutic potential of ketone bodies in Parkinson's, which is really just an interesting topic that I'd love to dive into a little bit more. So Angela, do you want to talk about this research specifically? And we made a post about it, but it'd be great to kind of chat about it a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. So this is a review article, and it was kind of just laying out the argument for why ketogenic therapies might be beneficial in Parkinson's disease. So as probably most of you guys know, there's a lot of research looking at ketogenic therapy for many neurological diseases, of course, seizure disorders, epilepsy being the most well understood, but Alzheimer's disease, for example, is an important neurodegenerative disease that shares some similarities with things like Parkinson's disease, and is also seeing some beneficial data coming out in the literature. And so this review article kind of just highlighted a few different pieces of information that kind of support why this could be, useful in Parkinson's as well. And one of the things they were talking about was actually complex 1 of the electron transport chain that Dom was just mentioning, being that a target of metformin. And this complex in the electron transport chain is actually dysfunctional in the neurons that are damaged in specific brain regions that we see being affected in Parkinson's disease. And ketone metabolism, interestingly, there's a long history of research looking at the specific role of ketone metabolism in the mitochondria. And there's data that suggests that ketone metabolism can actually alter the oxidation state of that complex in the electron transport chain in a way that enhances ATP efficiency. So producing more ATP than you would have without ketone metabolism. And this could be really beneficial in a neurological disease that has energetic consequences, which most neurological diseases do. Actually, Dom and I just put out a review article talking about ketone supplementation as a way to feed the hungry brain in an energy crisis. It was really fun article to write because you can see a very consistent theme throughout neurological diseases wherein these neurons that are highly energetic require a ton of energy to carry out their normal processes like neurotransmission, communication between neurons, communication with the rest of the body. They need a lot of energy, and when energy is disrupted, those neurons can become damaged, stop functioning properly, and you get things like neurodegeneration. And so it was interesting that, this specific complex that we see being damaged in these neurons is a site of ketone action in that way. And then additionally, ketosis, ketone metabolism, contributes to something we call anaplerosis of the Krebs cycle, or contributing acetyl-CoA that can keep the Krebs cycle running and generate these intermediate metabolites that can shuttle electrons into the electron transport chain past the complex 1 that is dysfunctional. So they can actually drop off their electrons at complex 2. And so basically it would be like, oh, there's a wreck on this, highway. I'm going to take, another exit to avoid that wreck. And so this is the idea that maybe by using ketone metabolism to create intermediates in another way, you can actually bypass some of the damage that's blocking flux in the electron transport chain at complex 1. Which is another cool mechanism that could be at play. And then, on top of that, there has been a good amount of research, a lot of preclinical stuff showing that ketone metabolism in neurons can be very protective against neuronal cell death, in part perhaps by increasing mitochondrial efficiency and even, ending up improving cognitive and motor function in animal models of various neurodegenerative diseases. So all in all, just an encouraging, largely like a theoretical kind of support for why this makes a lot of sense and why we need research to determine if this is something that could actually be useful in this disease.
Absolutely. It's I've said this like a million times, but honestly, the area of sort of neurological disorders and where this kind of fits into play is just probably one of the most interesting. I mean, from epilepsy to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury, it's really exciting times, I would say, in a variety of areas, but neurological health specifically, of where this kind of fits with that. We've got a really amazing symposium lined up at MHS 2022 to kind of cover all of those topics. Within brain health, but also, a variety of other areas of metabolic health, gut microbiome, you name it, sleep, and whatnot. So thank you guys for taking a dive into that. And for everybody watching live right now, or even watching the replay after the fact, I want to mention again, if you guys want to join us in Santa Barbara, May 5th through May 8th, for Metabolic Health Summit 2022, or maybe even virtually, just make sure you comment, even after the fact, comment with some questions that you might have around metabolic health or ketogenic metabolic therapy for Dom and Angela. And we will answer those questions live in our next video. And you'll also be entered to win a ticket, which is worth over $400 to join us live in Santa Barbara. So make sure, if you're watching, comment, share, tell your friends. And if you'd like to learn more about MHS, just go to metabolichealthsummit.com. And I'm excited to chat with you guys again very soon. We're going to be doing these lives a lot more frequently, so make sure you guys stay tuned. And Dom and Angela, thank you so much for hopping on with me. It was good to see you, and here's to a better 2022, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Victoria. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you guys really soon. Thank you all for watching, and yeah, we'll check back here later. Have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.